Hey there, friend. Welcome to the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I am your host, Shannon Warner. This podcast is all about taking a few moments for yourself and reconnecting to the amazing woman behind the title of mom. You have so many plates spinning at any given time between your kids, your partner, your job, maintaining a household, etc., etc. But where does taking time just for you play into that? Let's spend some time together, you and me, right now. We're rebranding a mom moment to those sacred moments you take to fill your cup first. Let's connect, tune in, and tap into what makes us the incredible women that we are. We'll nurture ourselves first so we can be our best selves for those we pour into on a daily basis. We'll also bask in the beautiful wisdom of other moms to learn about the ways in which they've tapped into alignment in their own motherhood journeys. Come on, mama, it's your time. We're having a mom moment. Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Having a Mom Moment podcast. I am your host, Shannon Warner, and I am so excited you're here. It is another double episode week. Happy solstice. If you celebrate, Christmas is right around the corner. All the things are happening, and I know we're so busy, so it means a lot that you're taking the time to listen. Before we dive into the episode, let me just remind you that if you are expecting or if you love someone who is, the free 18-page maternity leave planning guide and the free 30-minute Fund Your Unpaid Leave workshop is available in the show notes. The Mat Leave Social, my online virtual community for mamas on maternity leave, is coming in January, and we would love to see you inside. The details for that can be found in the show notes as well. I really love this episode. I'm really excited to share this guest with you. Again, I know I say this a lot, but she speaks so much to what the whole idea behind this Having a Mom Moment podcast was about. And that's just reconnecting to yourself as a human behind the title of mom and behind the title of insert title of employment and, wife, sister, daughter, all of those things. So this week's guest is Sarah Fish. Sarah is a stress and anxiety specialist using hypnotherapy and life coaching to help overwhelmed women take control from the inside out. She runs online group programs for stress management and one-to-one packages for anxiety and habits. Beat Overwhelm, Find Calm is her Facebook group for women with high pressure lifestyles. And I'll mention this in the outro as well, but I want to make sure that this is in your mind. If it sounds interesting to you, she is starting a new Stress Busters online group hypnotherapy program in January. So if you are listening in real time, there's still time to get in on this. All of those details are in the show notes. Let's get into the episode. Here's Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi.
I'm excited to have you. I'm excited to get into it. So can you please tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do?
Okay, so who I am, that's a great question. And I'm not going to necessarily answer with that because I think a lot of women, and especially a lot of mothers, tend to link their identity with their job. And I don't want to start off with what my job is because that's not who I am. I'm a night owl. I am a book lover. I'm somebody that loves the colour purple and the singer Pink. So, but I am also a hypnotherapist. That's just what I'm doing at the moment as my job. So that's who I am. I live in England, in the UK, with my husband and two kids who are teenagers. And I've only been a hypnotherapist for a couple of years. And I help people with stress and anxiety.
I love your answer. I wanted to pause just for a second because, and correct me if I'm wrong, I have not been outside of the US except to go to like the Caribbean and Mexico. So I can't speak to Europe, but I have heard here in the States when, hey, who are you? Nice to meet you. What do you do? We lead with our jobs.
Yeah, we do it here as well.
Oh, you do? Okay. I've heard in some places in Europe, like people are like, no, I'm a gardener. Like the way that you led instead of the way that we tend to.
Yeah, because I used to be a scientist.
Okay.
And I used to be the manager of a lab. So yes, so what used to happen is people would say, what do you do? And I'd say, I'm a biomedical scientist and I run a lab doing the ABC. And they would look at me like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And so then I'd have to explain what my job was. And it kind of frustrated me. And in the end, I was like, I'm a lab technician. I was like, what can I say that is people will understand?
Mm-hmm.
But then when that job came to an end, I actually didn't want to go out to places and meet new people because I thought, what am I going to tell them?
Mm.
Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
I'm without a job. Who am I? And
Mm.
that's what got me then thinking, well, who am I in separate to that job role?
Yeah. This is so important. I
Yeah.
don't know if this is where we were gonna, we just hit the ground running with this too. And I so resonate because I've had jobs that have been such a huge part of my identity.
Mm,
And yeah, it's interesting the responses you get when you tell people things. I used to be a teacher and
mm.
people were like, "Oh, that's so great. Do you enjoy your summers?" And it's like so much more than
Because
that.
their opinion of what your job is,
Yeah,
yeah, is
yeah.
entirely different to what reality is. And
Hmm.
as well, if you say, oh, well, you know, my sister-in-law, for example, was a stay-at-home mom, and she used to not want to say that because people would be
Yeah.
like, well, what do you do with all your free time?
Uh,
You can
yeah.
imagine that was like, whoa,
Right, right. I
free
care for my
time.
children. Yeah,
Exactly,
exactly.
exactly.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and obviously, when you're a mom who also, so I was a full-time worker as well as a mom. So I
Hmm.
had to flip. But on my way home, I was like, right, when I reach that lamppost over there, I'm gonna have to flip into mom mode and I've got to stop
Hmm.
thinking about work.
Hmm.
And then I would straight away get to the lamppost and go, okay, what am I making for dinner? What have the kids got on this week? What homework have we got to do? It was like, and then I'd do the same on the way into work the next day. It'd be like, I can't think about the kids anymore now. Right, what do I need to get done when I get to work? And you're almost
Yeah.
like two people, you know?
Yes. Yeah. I'm so glad you said that too, because I sometimes would have people ask me, while I'm at work if I'm thinking about my children. And when she was there and I dropped her off and I got to work, like I switched and I wasn't over
Mm.
there. I really wasn't thinking about her, because I had to be over here and
Yeah,
exist in
you
this
had
space.
too much taking up your space to,
Yeah.
and that's very hard, isn't it? As a mum as well. I wasn't going to talk about this, but when the mom guilt comes in because you're at
Mm,
work and you know your kids perhaps doing a play that you can't go to, or there's a
yeah.
coffee morning. They do a lot of these in England, coffee
Yeah.
mornings, and then they tell you like the day before,
Of
by the
course.
way, there's a coffee morning tomorrow, and you feel awful
Yeah.
because you can't go to that coffee morning because you can't get that time off work. And you know when that time comes at work that your heart will just be pulled out because you know your kid's
Yeah.
sitting there and their mum's not there. And
Yeah.
you imagine that everybody else's mum is there.
Yeah.
So I have actually taken time off work and gone in and discovered that there's a lot of mums that are not there. And I'm glad I
Mm,
did that because you need to see that. And actually, the kids whose mums aren't there aren't bothered because they know the mums are working and they're usually on a table with a
yeah.
teacher or they're talking to someone else's mum. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's okay.
Yeah. I'm so
But
glad you
until
said
you see
that.
it, you don't know that it's okay and you don't know that they're
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. You're so right. Because I think we immediately go to like, oh, they're going to be crying in a corner by themselves, thinking, how could my mama
Exactly.
be this time? Yeah.
Exactly. I remember asking my son, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry I couldn't come today. What happened at the coffee morning? And he said it was great. All the ones whose mummies didn't come in had a piece of cake. He was so happy that I didn't come, so he got cake.
Would you not come next time too?
Oh, of course.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, oh my
No.
goodness, that's such a wonderful answer, and it's made me feel so good.
Yeah, everybody wins. I don't have to take the time. You're thrilled. You have cake.
Yeah, well, he'd probably be
Oh,
annoyed if I turned up and he didn't get that cake.
100%, because that's how they are too, right? You think
Yeah,
next time I'm going to
exactly.
make it, and they're going to be like, Mom, I don't get cake now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh man, we have just hit the ground running with this. Like we are in it and I am here for it. It's all good. Can we talk more about identity and motherhood and these pieces
Yeah,
that we carry?
definitely, because I think that I see a lot of people. So as I said, I was in a full-time role. I was in a leadership role. So I felt like it was mum, mum, mum at home. And then as soon as I got to work, Sarah, 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 Sarah.
Mm.
And you just like, somebody just stop saying my name. Somebody
Oh.
just leave me alone. And it meant that there was no time for me to be me
Mm-hmm.
because I was being there for everybody else every moment it felt like of the day. And for some reason, felt like I had to fill with every minute of every day doing something,
Yeah.
not just being. And we are
Yeah.
human beings, not human doings.
Yep.
But and if there was like, oh my goodness, like we're not doing this now. We've got like a couple of hours there where we could do something. It was like, who can we invite round or where can we go? It was never, let's actually do nothing. And
Mm.
that was my ultimate downfall, I think, because I ended up going really downhill, spiraling downhill and suffering with burnout and depression because my body could not take that level of constant energy all the time
Mm-hmm.
because we're also, as women, cyclical, aren't we? We are not
Yes.
supposed to be on constant go, go, go every second of
Right.
every day.
Right.
We've got times in the month where we need to just hibernate.
Yep.
And I was not honoring any of that. And
Mm.
yeah, and I was also studying as well because that's just what you do when you're trying to do
Yeah.
everything. And so I think that what happened then is for me, um, I ended up off work sick, and I thought, and I don't know what I am now because I'm now at the stage where I I'm not at work leading my team. I am unable to even think about what to make for dinner.
Mm.
Because when that happens, your brain just goes, that's it, that's enough. Your body is exhausted and you can't think straight. So
Right.
at this point, I mean, in the lead up to this, I had literally been coming home from work and going to bed, and my
Mm.
husband had been coming in, making the dinner, sorting the kids out. I'd picked them up from school, but that's as far as it had gone. I
Mm-hmm.
was just too exhausted to do anything else. So I wasn't
Mm.
really being that mum that I needed to be. And I also wasn't probably being the right leader I was supposed to be because I was trying too hard, maybe. Um, and so then you just sit there going, what am I now? Um, and I think that's where you do need to get back to who you are and remembering who you are and really, really thinking back to what you did when you were a child and what you loved and what made you smile and what made you laugh. And when you start to do that, I actually made a little list of me on my phone, and
Mm.
it was anything that brings me comfort, joy, laughter, anything that lifts me up. This is my little list of me.
I love
And
that.
so I would have things like sitting with my hands around a warm mug of hot chocolate, let's say,
Mm.
reading a book, or I would have having a nice bubble bath, or I would have putting a comedy show on, or dancing to my favorite song. And I had this little list, and it was hard to begin with because when you reach burnout and you reach that point where you are just numb,
Mm-hmm.
nothing brings any spark of any emotion at all.
Right.
But I just thought if I just keep doing something on my list every day, I'll get back to me. And I did get back to me. Eventually, one day I went to yoga and I was in the middle of a pose. It might have been warrior pose actually. And I remember thinking, oh, it's me. I'm here.
Oh,
Like I'm back, you know?
yeah.
And it was like the feeling was amazing because I've not felt this sort of just sense of, oh, yeah, you're doing exactly right. You're doing exactly what you should be doing.
Yeah.
And that was the first step to, right, I'm going to do yoga more. I'm going to
Mm.
start doing more of them things on my list until I can heal. And ultimately, my healing journey is what brought me to having hypnotherapy, which is why I'm
Mm.
doing what I'm doing now.
I love all of that so much. I think even if we haven't hit full burnout, which I have, so I totally resonates with me, but I think we've gotten close. I think a lot of us have experienced this, like, what is happening? Everything is ick.
Yeah,
There's no joy in any of it. And I'm just going through the motions. And I'm so
yeah,
glad you brought up the cyclical piece because it wasn't something that I really realized until a couple of months ago. And when somebody
Oh,
pointed it
okay.
out to me, I was like, oh my gosh,
Oh, yeah.
we are not designed to run on these 24-hour schedules like the men are. And
Exactly.
a lot of us are
Yeah.
out there trying to keep up with the men in the workplace, and we
Hmm.
just can't because we're not designed that way. And if we can
Exactly.
tap into the way that we're designed, I think that's where the magic is.
Definitely. Because the world of work was created by men.
Yeah.
And this is what gets me as well is, um, so I meet a lot of people that believe that they should always strive to be um, climbing the ladder and working full time.
Yeah.
And I say to them, do you need to do that?
Hmm. Right.
If you compare your bills and you can afford to go on holiday and you can afford to buy clothes and food, if you've got anything left over, could you not be working less hours instead and
Hmm.
actually sitting and enjoying life?
Yeah.
Because so many people work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, till they hit retirement. And then how many years do they see? We don't know.
Right.
We should be enjoying life every second, not when we hit retirement age, which is getting later and later.
Right.
Over here, it's 68 for me, it will be.
Okay.
I'm not sure what it's like over in the
I
US for
don't know. It's
retirement.
so far away for me. And I'm just like, I know it's just going to keep rolling. So I don't even pay attention to the dates
Exactly. But
anymore.
that's also where I think if you can find something that you are really passionate about and work doesn't feel like work,
Yeah.
I don't want to retire from this ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And I can choose my hours and I can choose how many clients to take on. And when I reach retirement age, maybe I'll take on less clients. Maybe I'll only see them on a certain day of the week or something like that. But I will still get the joy from it, which is the important part, because that means I can now choose to have time to enjoy life.
Mm, yeah. And then you always hear those stories of somebody who worked their whole life, worked really hard, and then they retire and a year later they're gone. You know,
I
like
knew a
that's
guy in our hospital. He passed away the day before he retired.
I can't.
I know. They were planning a retirement party for him.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was so shocking. I think every one of us there looked at each other like, is this what's going to happen to all of us? Like, we're racing around right now, and then that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of the
Yeah.
things that made me really think I can't stay in this till I retire. Like,
Yeah.
I've got to find some other way to live. But I didn't know
Yeah.
what that was.
Mm,
Because, I had this thought, well, I'd love to have my own business one day, but what would I do? No idea.
yeah.
And ultimately going through what I went through is what brought me to hypnotherapy. So that had to happen.
Yeah.
And for some people, even though we can say, oh, please don't go through this and please try not to do that, they actually do have to go through it to
Yep.
move on to whatever the next thing is for them. And
Yes.
so I'm just there to help them pick up the pieces
Yes.
when perhaps they're going through that.
Yes. I love it. Of course, we hate to see people go through the struggle, but I do agree that we sometimes have to experience these things to come out on the other side. And I've had the opportunity to talk to so many women who do what they do now because of what they went through in motherhood. They're like, if I didn't go through
Yes.
that, I wouldn't be here, and it's so beautiful on
Yes.
the other side. And I love that for them. Although it's like I said, it's hard to see like, oh, I'm gonna have to go through the muck to get to the
Yeah, you
beautiful
just don't know
clearing.
what kind of muck you're going to go through,
Yeah, exactly.
you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions or recommendations for women who, maybe they're not burned out yet, but they could see that that is on the horizon if they continue at the pace that they're going to kind of unhook from this, like, well, this is all that I've done and worked for, and I have degrees in this, and I've been in this field for 15 years.
Mm.
And how do we give ourselves permission to kind of release?
I think that is probably a really tricky question because if you tried to tell me years ago what I needed to do to get to not being burnt out, I would have said I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
And I do think mindfulness does come into it. And I
Hmm.
know that, and I used to think mindfulness was just staring at a raisin for like ages.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not up for that. I don't really care about staring
Yeah.
at raisins. But I get it now. It's actually more about, instead of sitting and stewing with your thoughts, it's about going, do you know what? These thoughts, all the thoughts that happen in our minds, are just our brain trying to protect us. That's all they are.
Hmm.
And when we can go, oh, it's just trying to help us. The brain's just trying to help us. It's not, those
Yeah.
thoughts aren't me. Those thoughts are fears and things that are trying to keep me alive. Then you can go, I don't need to go, thank you for those thoughts, but I don't, those aren't helpful to me right now. And you can
Yeah.
choose to let them go. And I
Yes.
think that's the key. It's about, like with mum guilt, for example. I could sit there and churn over in my body and feeling more and more tense about, oh, I can't believe that I'm not with my kids right now.
Yeah.
Um, I actually had to be brave to ask my son what had happened that day
Yeah.
because I didn't want him to say I was very upset.
Right.
But he could have said that. I asked him just because I kind of thought, well, I just feel like I need to know. I feel like I need to know what am I going to do next time? And then when he said, oh, it was great, we had cake, it was like, oh, wow, it just lifted off me. And
Yeah.
so sometimes it's about actually communicating, isn't it? Finding
Yeah.
out a little bit about things, but also about not going down that spiral of thoughts, about going, hang on, I'm not going down that slope. What can I do that's the opposite?
Yeah.
So, okay, I might feel a little bit guilty that I can't be with my kids right now, but what am I doing right now? I'm setting an example to them. I'm a role model for them.
Right. Right.
And the money I earn in this next hour is going to take us for a day out,
Yeah.
and they're going to have lots of fun, and we're going to make memories, you know? So it's about turning it, flipping it into. I'm not saying I don't believe in toxic positivity and being
Right.
positive for the sake of it. I do think you need to feel your feelings,
Yeah.
but you need to feel them, accept them, understand what they're trying to tell you, and then move on.
Hmm.
Um, so don't ignore what you feel. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of the things I'm trying to tell people when they come to me is how to almost understand what their body's trying to say to them.
Mm.
Because a lot of people don't realize the mind and body are just so entwined. You know, the
Right.
brain is a part of the body.
Right. Right.
And it's like, wow, people, you're feeling tense in your stomach. There's going to be something going on in your mind that's
Mm.
causing the tension. So what's going on in your mind and how can we alleviate that? And sometimes it's just that you've got some worry that's going around in your head and you haven't acted on it. And all it is maybe you need to ask someone for help and you're just putting it off.
Yeah.
And so just do something. Just do something to get it
Do
out,
something. Yeah.
you know? Um, and so yeah, it's about getting to know yourself and it's about allowing yourself. For me, I say to a lot of people, if you can block out time every day just for you, I know it's very, very, very difficult with children, but I'll give you an example of what I did. Um, we paid for wraparound care, so that is we dropped them off at school early and they went to the breakfast club and all that. Now, we paid from 7:30 a.m., but I was too lazy to drop them off till like 8:30 a.m. So we were paying for that hour. They weren't going for that hour. But I was rushed off my feet, getting up, getting them ready, etc.
Hmm.
I started to drop them off at 8 o'clock and I started to park my car further away and walk for 15 minutes
Mm.
into work. And that made such a massive difference to me, having
Yeah.
that 15-minute walk at each end of the day. And it was
Yeah.
such a small thing to do, but it was so obvious.
Yeah.
And so it's about finding those moments when you can have time just for you. And I know that you might fill them with worrying about things, but you also might fill them with saying hello to someone that you don't know, or seeing some birds or some trees or whatever is around you.
Hmm.
Um, you might find different things in your life other than racing from one thing to the next and allowing nothingness, allowing just staring out of the window and doing nothing and not beating yourself up for it.
Yep.
Because we need to do more of that staring out of the window. All those people that used to do dishes by hand and sitting with their hands in the bubbles and looking out of the window, because a lot of kitchens have windows that look out over the garden. The amount of women that must have stood washing dishes looking out of the window and just sort of daydreaming. We don't do
Mm,
that because we have a dishwasher now, and it's probably
yeah.
nowhere near a window. So there's little things like this that we've lost in society that we need to get back so that we can get back to us.
Yeah. I love that you said that. It made me think of my grandmother who just turned 96 a couple weeks ago, and
Yeah.
she has always loved to wash her dishes by hand. And even when they lived in a house that was built before dishwashers, and my dad was like, let's get you a dishwasher, like let's find a way. And it was
Yeah.
just difficult enough to like make it. She was like, don't worry about it, she's been washing dishes by hand her entire life. And she lived in a condo that had a dishwasher, and she still didn't use it. But I
Yeah.
get it now, I get
But
it.
maybe that's the reason,
Yeah,
it's worth
yeah,
finding out because some people love to do dishes and the reason has nothing to do with the dishes.
yeah, I think you're right.
Mm.
Oh yeah. And then we get so caught up in our lists and where we have to be and where the kids have to be, and
Yeah.
just making some space. And
Oh
like you
my
said,
goodness. And like you say about
yeah,
lists, I used to have a to-do list that never ended.
yeah,
And I would beat myself up over the fact that I'd done only 7 out of 10 things, for example.
mm,
I don't do any more than 3 every day now. I'm like, what
yeah,
are the 3 massive priorities for my day? And they might even be um, supporting my kids through something.
mm,
Let's say you've got a child that's feeling really nervous about doing something at school, an exam or something. One of your main priorities for that day could simply be that you're there to support them through it, rather than I've got to do the dishes, clean the house,
yeah,
go to the store, whatever. Um, think about what your to-do things are that are really doable, that when you get to the end of the day, you'll be really proud of yourself for those
mm.
3 things.
Oh, that's so powerful what you just said. I've got lists. I'm looking at them. Do this
Yeah,
and
you're
do
looking at
this
them,
and
you're
do
like,
this.
no, 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 I'm gonna get rid of all that.
Yeah, yeah. And like the only thing I have on there for me is like to take my vitamin. Like take my vitamin. There's nothing on there about my kids. Like,
Mm,
yeah. No, I love that. And then just refining the list and then creating the space that this is one of my priorities today. It's to be present for this thing going on. I
yeah,
love that. I love that. And as we all know, like the stuff will eventually get washed, the dishes will get done. Like it's fine.
exactly, exactly. And as the kids get older, I mean, mine help out with the dishes now, obviously, being teenagers. But I think as well as mothers, we tend to forget that um, if we have a partner, they can actually do some
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Because of course, I like to think of it. So, funnily enough, this is exactly the conversation I had with my friend last night. She said, how do you handle the fact you've transitioned from virtually 50-50 contribution into the household bills to your husband paying the majority and you paying a very small amount?
Oh.
And I said to her, it's not about money, it's about time. So, in those hours that he works, I do the school run. That
Mm-hmm.
is a job.
Yeah.
I will be supporting my kids, helping them with the homework. That is a job. And if you start to
Mm-hmm.
think of it like that, like, well, if you're not
Yeah.
doing that, what are you doing? Then you start to realize, hang on a minute, this is not equal. You can
Yeah.
be a stay-at-home mom and you're probably working 24/7.
Right. Right.
There is no reason why you should have to do that. And so it's about going, okay, these are the hours we have in the day. This is what I'm doing with these hours. I can't possibly pick up the dry cleaning, or I can't even put a load of laundry on today.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to do it. And you have to start working together and saying, how can we make it work as a family based upon
Mm-hmm.
time constraints instead of money?
Mm. Yes.
Because if
Yes to
if
all of
if
this.
if you as the woman were not doing those things, who is doing them? Are you
Mm-hmm.
paying a cleaner? Are you paying someone to take your children to school, a childminder or something?
Yeah.
Think about the fact that they are actually jobs. Are you
Yeah.
paying for a tutor to come help with homework?
Yeah.
Because if you're working full time, someone's got to help. And
Yeah.
so when you actually start to go, actually, these things are things I would be paying for if I was working and I couldn't be here to do these things. And certainly that's the way I see it, because we used to pay, as I say, wraparound care,
Yeah.
and it was a lot of money, an awful
Yeah.
lot. Like most of the money I earned went on that. Um, and so you think, right, well, that's really, really valuable if I can do that for our family instead of paying somebody else.
Mm. And it comes to the like, do you really need to work full time? Like, really examine your situation. If it's not
Mm,
lighting you up anymore, can you scale back and then what you're still contributing? Because I struggled
mm.
with this myself. My value was tied to my income. And when my income went
Yes.
away earlier this year, I struggled with that. And it was not at all from my husband. It was from nobody else. It was all internal. Like
Yes.
this battle I had with myself of like, what am I contributing if I'm not bringing in half of the income?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the key.
Mm-hmm.
You said it's all internal. This
Mm-hmm.
is why I say to people that I help people manage stress and anxiety from the inside out,
Yeah.
because you're always going to have things that stress you that are thrown at you. But if you can deal with it internally before it bothers to hit you,
Yeah.
then it won't hit you. And actually, you'll then start to respect yourself a bit more, set more
Yeah.
boundaries, and everything becomes easier.
Yeah.
Um, and so it is about the internal talk. I mean, for me, certainly when you're self-employed, going from having the same amount every month to this month I might earn lots or I might earn nothing.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
a big shock. And it's taken me. I quit my part-time job that I had because I had a part-time job sort of to help out. I quit that last July last year,
Okay.
and it's taken me a whole year to come to terms with this fluctuating
Oh yeah.
income. And I just decided I can't cope like this. My mind is so trained to believe I need to receive the same amount per month
Mm-hmm.
that I am going to. So what I do now is everything I earn goes into my savings account, and I pay myself a wage.
Oh, interesting.
And so far I've not had to dip into any further savings. So it has
Wow.
worked.
Yeah.
But it means that I don't have to worry because it is coming.
Mm,
But it means that when I do really well, I don't go, wow, let's go on holiday or let's buy a
right.
car or anything. Don't do that
Right.
because that's not mine yet, because I might need that for the months when it's quiet.
Sure. Oh,
Um,
I love
so
that.
yeah, that's the way I've got through that. I mean, it is a lot about money mindset as well.
Yes. Yes.
And obviously that's a whole different subject.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is to do with epigenetics and the fact that we have got ancestors that worried about money.
Yes.
It's in us to be that way, to believe that we have to work hard to get
Yeah.
money.
Yeah.
So it's a big battle to get over generations of fear,
Yes.
which is why poor people always feel poor, or always are poor, and rich people always seem to be rich.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
my
so
gosh.
yeah.
Oh, that was so
Sorry,
loaded
we
what
keep
you
going
just.
off on a complete
Oh no,
tangent.
I
I didn't
love
mean
it.
to.
No, this is my favorite part of this because I actually had a conversation earlier this week with a woman named Sylvia, who did her dissertation on ancestral healing and the importance of ancestral
Ooh,
healing. It was so good. And
interesting.
so you saying this and the
Yeah.
working hard thing, and I always thought like, so the region of the states that I'm in is called the Midwest. And like the
Hmm.
Midwesterners are like known for like working hard and having a strong work ethic. And I always like prided myself on that. I thought, I come from a long line of hard workers. And I
Yeah.
did. Like my grandpa grew up on a farm, was shipped off to war, worked in the steel mill. My dad worked in the steel mill for a long time.
Yeah.
There was a lot of hard work,
Yeah.
that I was aware of. And I'm sure beyond that. And I have internalized that as like, I have to work hard. That's what we
Yeah.
do. I have to work
Yeah.
hard. It has to be a challenge. And that's where the money is.
Mm.
E-
Yeah, that's a huge thing to overcome. Mm.
yeah, like that's not necessarily our truth, and I'm learning it's
Yeah,
more about the ease. It's more about having ease in your life.
definitely.
Ooh,
Yeah.
I love all of this. So no, I appreciate the tangent. I'm here for it.
Great.
just so beautiful. Like what you're saying is echoing what other people have said, but you're saying it in your with, through the lens of your own experience. And I just hope that people who are listening are like starting to go, okay, like I think we're on to
Yeah.
something here. Like I have to make
Yeah.
space for myself. I have to take care of
Yeah.
me. And yeah.
And like you say that, having to make space for myself. I did some research calls earlier in the year. I did free calls to ask women who were struggling questions that would help me form a program I was creating.
Hmm.
And they got like some free coaching. And all of them said, well, I'd invest in my physical health, but I'd never invest in my mental health.
Mm,
Or, well, I'll pay to do training. I'll pay to learn, but I'm not going to pay to fix something that I've had for my whole life that could be
mm,
gone in the next 4 weeks, you know? And they didn't want to give themselves space. They don't want to invest in themselves. And I am not asking tons of, I don't ask for lots and lots. Um, and it's amazing how actually I probably would have answered in exactly the same way at the time, even though I was earning way more than what I get now.
yeah.
My mentality was, oh, you don't throw money at things like that. You know,
Yes.
it was only when I was in a situation where I was like at the end of, I'd got nothing else left, that I was
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, can I throw some money at something and there'll be an answer? And there
Right.
was.
Yeah.
But, people come to me after they are on antidepressants, they've gone for counselling, they've
Uh,
gone for CBT, they've done everything, and they go, and I thought, finally, I should probably come to you now. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And then afterwards they go, why didn't I come to you sooner?
right.
I'm like, because hypnotherapy has been demonized.
Mm,
Because Big Pharma wants us to buy tablets and for us to take medication all the time,
yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
realizing the power of our own mind.
You're so right. And we have been led astray. We have been
So
taught.
much.
Yeah. We're not taught that so much
Yeah.
of what we need is inside. We have our
Yeah.
own internal pharmacy. And I'm not demonizing medications for those who really need them. You do what you do to
No,
get
I
through.
did. I
Yeah.
understand that. And I think you
Yeah.
need them, but you need them as a crutch.
Yeah.
And too many people don't just use them as a crutch and then get better. They are on them for years and years and years. And there's not
Yes.
enough studies to show that this is safe.
Ugh,
And that's scary. I know
it
people that have been
is.
on antidepressants 10 years and the doctors never ever question. They just keep throwing the repeat prescriptions at
Man.
them.
Yeah.
And it's a worry. It's like, for example, the words painkiller.
Mm.
Actually, 80% of that medication is placebo effect. But
Interesting.
we call it painkiller because the adverts on the TV call it painkiller. So therefore it will kill my pain and I believe that it will, and it does.
I have
But if I
goosebumps.
tried to use those words for hypnotherapy, I wouldn't be allowed.
Mic
Yeah.
drop. You're saying it, and it needs to be said, and it needs to
Yeah.
be heard.
I mean,
Eh,
obviously, I'm only talking from a UK perspective. I don't know how it's viewed necessarily in the US. I thought you guys were maybe more forward thinking about hypnosis.
I
Does
think
it vary
well,
state to state, maybe?
it's going to depend. It's very polarizing. We've got
Hmm.
people very much on one side where you go to church on Sunday, you go to church on Wednesday, you follow,
Ah,
you
yeah,
follow the Bible. They don't always live what they
yeah,
what they say, but they're very like, this is okay, this is not. And then
yeah.
there's a lot of us who dance in the like whatever fits the
Mm.
need that I have to help me,
Yeah.
grow. And yeah, I have not experienced it being demonized, but I am sure somewhere here in the States it has been.
Yeah, yeah. I think that, yeah, before I started my training, I used to go to church and I didn't tell anybody there that I
Mm,
was signing up for the course. And I always felt a little bit like an outsider because I thought, well, I believe some of the stuff you're telling me and I don't believe some of the stuff you're telling me, and
yeah.
you're not going to change my mind.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and so I felt a little bit like, because I hadn't grown up in the culture of going to church. So it was a late thing for me. So I was almost watching these people that have never ever known anything else and thought they've never questioned it either because they've never known anything else.
Yeah.
And I didn't tell any of them, and I didn't actually return to church. However, I do know some people who have very strong faith and They're like, well, surely it's just psychology and there's nothing wrong with hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
So it really does depend on who you are and what church you go to and what your faith is and what the people
Yeah.
around you are telling you and all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Especially that last piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's about being comfortable with saying this is who I am. And I think that's
Mm-hmm.
something that with me, I had so many different roles. We all wear so many different hats,
Yeah.
especially when you have kids, don't you?
Right.
Especially if you join the do they have at school parent teacher things?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I was in one of
This
them
is
as well.
this is my reality right now. Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh, the characters that turned up to those meetings, my goodness. So you might have a hat where you're doing that. You might have a hat where you are caring for a grandparent. You might have a hat that you're doing this and that. And those roles might never actually meet each other. You know, when I was
Right.
doing my masters at uni, none of those people knew really anything about my family and my anything like that.
Yeah.
Everything was separate. And I think that, and in some ways, I think I hid bits of me because I didn't want to
Hmm.
offend anybody,
Yeah.
or I wanted to fit in, maybe.
Yeah.
And I think that when you start to work on yourself and become comfortable with who you are as a person, and you say, "This is me," and it doesn't matter who I talk to, this is still me.
Yeah.
It's everything becomes easier.
Yes. Yes. Owning all the pieces, inviting all the pieces of you to the
That's it. Owning all
table.
the pieces. I love it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. It's so beautiful. But think about how many like masks we're wearing with people in the different arenas of our life.
exactly, exactly.
Mm. Mm. I
Well, I'm
love
not
that so
anymore.
much. What?
I'm like,
Right,
if you
right,
don't
right,
like it, get out my life. I'm
right.
sorry. I
Bye.
don't have
Right,
time for this.
right. They're not your people. Next.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. Where is my tribe? I will find you.
Yeah. It's
That's it.
amazing because people will start showing themselves the door, even if it's not a conversation. I have noticed some people kind of exiting my life. And again, there's no falling out or anything. It's just kind of like, huh, I haven't heard from them in a while, and it's
Mm,
okay. And just
yeah,
let them go. Let
it
them
is
have their
okay. They were there
experience.
when they were needed to be in your life, and they
Yeah.
might return as
Yeah.
well.
Hmm.
I have friends that I was friends with at school I didn't see for 20 years, and then all of a sudden we ended up bumping into each other and we're friends again. So
Yeah.
it happens. You have the
Yeah.
people around you when you need them, I think.
I agree. I totally agree. I once heard the saying, people come into your life as either a lesson or a blessing, and
Yes,
it's
yes.
okay for them to come for that purpose and then move right along. That's okay.
Yeah, but they can be a blessing at one point and a lesson another, and vice
Also,
versa as well.
yeah.
Yeah, because
So true.
yeah,
So true.
yeah.
Oh, this is all so good. Can you tell us more about hypnotherapy itself? I've not yet experienced this
Okay.
science. Yeah.
So, it's never what people think. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
I thought that I'll tell you what I thought because I had hypnotherapy for the first time, um, 3 years ago when I was just starting out as a hypnotherapist. Like that was the year that I started. No, yeah, it is early 2020. And I thought, I'm going to close my eyes and then she's going to talk to my mind and that I will not be aware of it. This is what I thought. And then I
Hmm.
will open my eyes and she'll be all, wow, can't believe all the stuff you've just said. And I'll be, oh, this is what I was imagining. I was
Yeah.
imagining it would be like the stage shows that you see on the TV where they appear to not know that they're clucking like a chicken, even
Yeah.
though they actually do. That's the
Okay.
mad thing. So it's nothing like that. It's the because I do online hypnotherapy, it's all words. So yes, I've been taught there are things you can do to help get people into hypnosis that are quicker, that might involve clicking your fingers and things like this. But I don't do that because I do a lot of online work. So all of mine is words. And if you've ever been to a meditation, it's just like a meditation.
Mm.
I just literally will say, okay, I'm going to now describe this, and I'm going to and I tell everybody up front, explain how the mind works, all the types of hypnotherapy I use, and then I say, and now we're going to tense and relax muscles in the body, and then I'm going to talk you to a beautiful garden, And you're going to sit on a bench. You're going to imagine that you're sitting on a bench in a garden, and I'm going to say some nice words to you. And then I'm going to count you up, and you're going to open your eyes. And people get very relaxed and they imagine they're sitting on a garden bench and they hear me saying the words and they open their eyes and they go, "Oh, that was nothing like I expected."
Huh.
And I'm like, yeah, because ultimately hypnosis is something every single person in the world does every night, right before we
Mm.
fall asleep. It's that
Mm.
moment where you feel so relaxed you could go, "Oh, I'm just gonna fall asleep any second now." Like if ever you've been to a party and you fall asleep and you can hear everybody saying, "I think she's asleep." You know,
Yeah.
you can hear them. At that moment there where you're so relaxed you can't be bothered to say, "I'm actually awake."
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yes,
at that
okay.
moment there, that is
Got it.
hypnosis,
Got
right?
it. Yeah.
So everybody does it every night. It's just that when you do it every night, you do it for maybe a minute or something. You may be there for a minute, if that. When we choose to go there, we're choosing to stay in that relaxation level before we fall asleep. It's not asleep at all. So
Mm.
you are aware, you can hear everything that's going on. You can hear the words I'm saying. But what might happen is you might start to be in your garden and you might start to daydream something. And then you'll think, oh, I didn't hear the words she just said because you went off into a bit of a daydream. And that's fine because that's hypnosis. The daydreaming, staring out of the window is also
Mm.
hypnosis.
Mm.
So all that happens is at that moment is when your subconscious mind is the most receptive to words that it hears. So we can use suggestion therapy where I just say nice, warm, fluffy suggestions that make you feel good about yourself.
Mm.
Bearing in mind, if I ever said anything negative, you would immediately respond to it and be like, I'm not having that.
Mm.
So it's your mind will only accept what is helpful to you because it's
Interesting.
protecting you at all
Yes.
times.
Wow.
And then we also do visualization therapy where I say, oh, imagine you're walking along a stream and then you see the trees and it's like a guided meditation. But the third one is the dynamic where I do have a direct conversation and say, subconscious mind, there's a problem here. Does this need to still be in this person's life? Can we let
Mm.
it go? And you answer with the first thought that comes into your head, whether that be yes or no. And the first thought that comes into your head is your subconscious speaking to you.
Mm.
And so those are the different types that we do. And so so the thing that people struggle with is they see people on the TV who are usually drunk that
Yeah.
get on the stage and start dancing around. You know what? They are thinking, haha, I can pretend I don't remember any of this. That's what they're thinking. They go ahead and do it because they quite like to entertain people. And that's
Mm.
why the hypnotists on stage choose people that they know are up for a laugh.
Mm.
I've never been chosen because they know I would not play. See?
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
so, as much as it looks like, oh, there's mind control going on, there's no such thing. There is no such thing
Mm.
because your mind would not allow you to do something that made you feel so uncomfortable. So, yeah,
Fascinating.
yeah. So
Wow.
it is fascinating, and it's amazing that the things that we do under hypnosis, we can do things. I could talk to you now about how lovely you are, but that is not going to go into your subconscious mind. You're going to
Right.
immediately go, well, I'm not lovely because of this, that, and the other. You're going to
Right.
put up a wall. Yeah. If I tell you under hypnosis that you are lovely and that you're a lovely, loving person and all these things, your subconscious mind's going to go, oh, that's nice. We'll keep
Mm.
that. And then
Yeah.
you then come around feeling really, really great about yourself and you don't really know
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
And it's because your subconscious has gone, I like that. I'm going to keep that because that's helping us.
That's so interesting. Thank you for the insight. I really didn't know, but it sounds so nice.
It is
Yes,
nice.
please.
Yeah.
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 So how many sessions do people I know you say people come to you and they're like, I should have come to you first. I've tried all these other things. How often or how many times do they come to you where they feel, I don't want
So,
to say fixed, but better?
yeah. So I have tried. So I was taught. So there's different schools of training in hypnotherapy. I was taught the Atkinson Ball College way, if ever anybody knows what that means. Um, but I was taught specifically, this is a package of this many sessions for this So for habits, it's four. For fears, it's four. For anxiety, that could be long. So
Mm,
my teacher said she normally does 6 to 8. So
okay.
I had a go at the beginning of doing 6, wasn't quite enough. I moved to 8, was a little bit too much. When I went down to doing 7 sessions, that was like the key. That was like,
Interesting.
for me and the way I work. So by the seventh session, when I ask those questions, so I asked questions in the first week about how much certain things are impacting people's life, like overthinking, brain fog, tension, worrying about the future, dwelling on the past, poor sleep, etc. And I asked them again in week 7, and you can guarantee that those numbers have dropped.
Interesting.
And so I then share that. I do it on the form of like a wheel, and I share the wheels with them and say, look what's changed for you over these 7 weeks. And that's just a visual for them.
Yeah.
But ultimately, over the course of the weeks, they'll go, well, I don't really let things get to me anymore.
Mm,
Or, yeah, it has been stressful, but for some reason I've coped better. So a good example for you is I had a lady that had a health condition that meant that she was afraid of going too far away from her house. She was afraid of going anywhere where there wasn't facilities that she could use.
mm, okay.
So she would only ever um, go on short journeys on the motorway, uh, I guess the highway you would call it. And so she would only ever go so far, and so she tended. So she actually contacted me and she said, "I live round the corner from you, but I'd like online sessions, please, because I
Oh,
don't really like to leave my house."
wow.
So we had these 7 sessions. This is in the spring this year. And by the summer, she was sending me photographs of herself on the beach all the way down in Cornwall, which is a good 4 or 5 hour drive away.
Oh,
And she is now in Vegas.
yes.
She has now gone on the trip of a lifetime with her
Wow.
husband, and she's like, I saw a sign that said 100 miles to services, and it didn't even bother me.
Oh
She
my
was just
gosh.
like, she was absolutely, and then
Wow.
and that this is on Sunday. She messaged me and said, I've just had a little cry because I actually feel normal, and I've
Oh,
not felt normal since I was 18. This lady's in her 50s.
wow.
And her sister messaged me yesterday morning and sent me a private message to say thank you so much. I never thought I'd see my sister go and
Oh
do a trip like this.
my
And I was
gosh.
like, wow, like how nice to know that I've not just helped her, but her husband's got to go on the trip he wanted to go on, probably
Yeah.
forever. And her family that have been worried about her for so long don't have to worry anymore. So there's a ripple
Yeah.
effect as well.
That's so beautiful. I have
Yeah.
goosebumps. Oh my
It's
gosh.
just, yeah, it's been a lovely week. It's been I love to see
Yeah.
these stories. I love to hear where people are at. Um,
Yeah.
I'm very careful in what I say about who, because obviously it's their private story.
Of course.
Um, but yeah, so the anxiety, I do 7 weeks, and I say to people, I know you're going to see a difference in 7 weeks because
Hmm.
I've done this and with a lot of people now. Now you might get to the end of the 7 weeks and it's opened up some other area you want to work on.
Oh,
That's fine, but we will need to then add on some sessions if that's what you want to
right.
do, you know?
Right. Hmm.
So, so if it's a habit, I have people that come to me with cravings for certain foods, you know. I don't do weight management because that is a massive can of worms. That is,
Mm,
there's a lot mentally going on behind why we eat what we eat. A lot of emotional eating. So
yeah.
I say to people, I would rather you come to me with the one thing that you're struggling with the most when it comes to your weight loss journey, and we'll focus on that one thing to help you. I am not going to tell you you're going to lose this many pounds because we've got to deal with the mental things underneath, the mindset
Yes.
underneath to sort out that you otherwise you're just going to return back to the way you were. So yeah, I don't do as many phobias anymore. Um,
Mm.
they're all right, but it's not my cup of tea, you know.
Sure. Sure. That's
So yeah,
also interesting.
And I
And I
do
love,
group programs as well online.
oh, very cool.
So I've
Very
just come to
cool.
the end of, I called it Stress Busters because that's only because I like Ghostbusters. But yeah, we got to our fourth week last night, and they were like, "Wow, that was so good." And I was like, "Yeah, because you're on the fourth week now. You've had 4 weeks of
Yeah.
hypnotherapy. You're now
Yeah.
able to go there more quickly and stay there for longer, deep,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
truly switch off."
Yeah.
And they all said, "Well, my thoughts aren't spiraling. I I just don't seem to think as negatively as I used to. All this kind of stuff."
Yeah.
Um, and that's just stress. That's not really going into the nitty-gritty of the stuff I do with one-to-one with anxiety. So,
Yes.
I'm definitely going to do another program, another group program, because
Awesome.
it's nice to help more people at once, you know?
Yes. Yes. And just the ripple effect of being able to show up in your life differently every day is so
Yeah.
remarkable. That's
Well,
so exciting.
I wouldn't be on this screen talking to you. Like I was awful in meetings, even though I was like the manager. I had a big fear of public speaking. I hated looking at myself in the mirror.
Mm,
I hated having photographs taken, hated being on camera. So hypnotherapy is well, it took away my people pleasing, which was the core. That
oh,
was the core. Now I can do loads of things.
oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
How these things are all linked together. You think your problem's over here, but your problem's actually over here.
Oh, yes. And it's never what you think it is.
Mm,
Yeah.
so magical, so magical. How can everybody find you? Where are you on the socials, all the things? How can they work with you?
Okay. So I am on Instagram, focus underscore Sarah Fish. I am on Facebook, Focus Coaching and Hypnotherapy. I'm on LinkedIn as me, Sarah Fish. Um, and I will leave you with my link tree, which has got
Yes.
everything on it. Um, because everything's there in one place then.
Yes.
So yeah,
We'll
I'm in
put
a
all
lot of
that in the show
places.
notes. That's awesome. And she does virtual, so even though she's in the UK,
Well,
she's
exactly. I have got one of the
yeah.
ladies on my Stress Busters was from Arizona. So
I love it. I
yeah,
love it.
yeah. I
Yes,
do it
we'll
in
put
the
all
evening
that.
over here so that I can help, so people from the US can join in, you see.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
perfect. We need
Mhm.
help over here. So so thank you for doing that. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. So I have a few questions I like to ask all of my guests who are moms. So first, what didn't you expect motherhood to either change or shake up in you?
Well, for me, bizarrely, um, I think it was my relationship with my own parents.
Mm,
So my parents divorced when I was 9, and that wasn't great, as you can imagine.
hmm.
And I had a lot of difficult teenage years. And I just thought I'm never going to be like this with my kids. And I had this idea of the way I was going to be and I must say it has made me, I have perhaps overly put my children first because
Mm,
of what I experienced. But seeing my parents um as grandparents and also realizing that, you know what, your parents aren't like superheroes, they're actually human beings.
right.
And I think we forget that, don't we?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
become a parent, and our kids think we are superheroes.
Yeah.
And we also need to show them that we are just human as well.
Yeah.
They were doing what they could do with what they'd got at the time.
Hmm.
And I think that it's having children and your own children reaching the ages that you were when certain things have gone on, make you sort of assess, well, now that I'm the mum, I can kind of understand why things might have been a certain way.
Hmm.
And maybe that's an understanding I wouldn't have got if I didn't have kids.
I think that's so interesting that you added that piece, especially like I
Mm.
may have never arrived here without it.
Yeah,
Um, yeah. Yeah. I've heard this a lot where women are saying, it's brought up stuff for me that I never expected, with my parents or with my own upbringing or whatever.
yeah.
And just remembering, like you said, that everybody's human. And it's funny too that you say that because my daughter will ask me things and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I have all the information that you have in this situation. I
Oh,
don't know. She's like, but you're the mom, you know? So
yeah,
you're so
exactly.
right. You're so right. They do think we are heroes, but showing them that we're human and then modeling that for them and that we need to take care of ourselves and all those things is
Mm,
so, so important. I love that. I
yeah.
love that. If you could give one piece of advice to another mother at any stage in motherhood, what would that be?
It would be to stop and breathe.
Mm,
I think that when you've got little ones and they're high energy and their emotions are 1 minute everybody's laughing and the next minute everybody's crying and you feel angry and everything happens in such a short space of time and you feel exhausted. Sometimes I remember feeling wound up when actually my kids were playing perfectly nicely. And all I
mm,
needed to do is stop and breathe.
hmm.
And I think that that's something we should do a lot. And when you have teenagers and things will happen that you will annoy them. You will be the most annoying person in the whole world. As long as you understand you are, that's fine. Even if you're not trying to be, I do try to
Yeah.
be because it's more fun. But, even if you're not intending to be, they will think you are the most annoying person in the world. And again, you just need to stop and breathe and go,
Mm,
oh, well, this is their hormones, this is their brain that is adapting as they grow.
yeah.
They haven't got the space to have the patience with us, so we've got to stop and breathe and have the patience with them.
Wow. That's so interesting to think about that. Them needing to have the patience for us and not being able to. That's so interesting.
Mm.
Oh, the things I have to look forward to.
Well, there is a book. I'll have to try probably send you a link. It's called The Teenage Brain, and
Okay.
it's fascinating. And it
Yeah.
explains why children, and it starts when they're about 11 or 12, and it goes until they're 19.
Oh,
And it explains why at certain points they'll be in certain moods and things will happen because the brain is constantly growing and almost like growing and then pruning a bush in the head.
oh my
It's like we don't need that
gosh.
now, but we do need that. And so they get tired. That's why they need to sleep so much, you know?
Oh,
There's so
interesting.
much. When I read it, I was like, I'm so glad I read it, like when they
Yeah.
were like younger, because I've had so much more patience since I read that book. Yeah.
Wow. And I can see too, being in the age of children that I have right now, being like, I don't have any more patience, like in this capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're still gonna have it, just for different reasons. Huh.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. It's not being patient while they try to tie their shoes when they don't know how to tie their shoes. It's be patient while their brain is doing all of these
Yeah,
chaotic
while they're
things
slamming the
while they
door in your
grow.
face
Oh my
or rolling their eyes at you and not speaking to you.
Oh my gosh. My dad used to tell me, he's like, just one day she's going to look at you like you were the dumbest human being to ever walk the planet. Just
Oh
wait,
yeah.
just wait. And I'm like,
Oh,
"Ooh, sorry."
I get that look a lot.
Oh,
As long as
yeah.
you know that you're not, that's all that
Right.
matters. As long as
Right.
you know who you are, that's all that matters.
Right. For sure. And we touched on that in this episode for sure. Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Doing the work is so important. It's so important. Oh,
Yeah.
so how do you reconnect to yourself in motherhood?
Well, I do what I'd still go back to that little list of me that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Um, I make sure that there is always, if an opportunity comes for me to do something away from the family, I will actually do it because and I think it's very healthy in relationships for you and your partner to have your own hobbies and your own things
Yes.
to do as well. And so as long as we're not, as long as I'm not out every night or he's out every night, as long as we've got other things, so one of the things that I love, I've started to go, I'm now a carnival drummer. And
Interesting.
yeah, there's a class nearby, and we go to like different carnivals and play.
Huh.
It's actually Brazilian drumming that we do,
Wow.
and it's so fun.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
just so fun, and I think that when you can find things that really, really light you up, that are you, that are you before you
Mm,
were a mom, that are you when before you were maybe a wife or a partner, that are you before you had a job title. If you
Yeah.
can go back to the things, and I never ever was into music as a child. I've always been drumming on like tables and things to the music. But if you can find something that really lights you up and brings you alive, that is what brings you back to you,
Mm,
regardless of where you are in your life and your motherhood.
yeah.
You know?
I love that so much. Such sage advice and setting down the mom guilt for, missing
Yeah.
bedtime or whatever the thing is.
Exactly, because they need to have time with whoever else there is anyway.
Yeah.
If it's grandparents looking after them, you shouldn't feel guilty that they are because they're forming a relationship with somebody else. So
Yeah.
it's about how you view what's going on.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love how you just like drop that in there like it was nothing, but it is so potent. Like you really have to consider how you are viewing the
Oh yeah,
circumstances. Yeah. And
yeah.
how you perceive. Oh
It's
my
really,
gosh.
really all about mindset completely.
Yeah. 100%. Oh my gosh. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today, sharing the work that you do. This was a lot of
Thank you.
fun and so informative. So everybody go find her. All the links will be in the show notes. And if hypnotherapy sounds like it's up your alley, give it a try. She's out there and virtual and available.
Thank you.
Sarah, thank you again for being here and for spreading your wisdom and giving us so many juicy morsels to consider. If you loved Sarah and you're interested in learning more about her and what she offers, all of her links are in the show notes. And as I mentioned in the intro, if you're interested in working with Sarah, she is running her Stress Busters online group hypnotherapy program starting in January that has 4 weeks of live group hypnotherapy with audios and tips and strategies. This is open to the international community. She runs her program in the evening in the UK, so it would be in the daytime here in the US. If you have any questions, I'm sure Sarah would be happy to answer those. Go give her a follow, check out her work. She's amazing. If you're loving what you're hearing on the podcast, it would mean so much if you would follow and leave a review. If you haven't already, come hang out with me on socials. I'm at Having a Mom Moment on Instagram and on Facebook. Although I am much more active on Instagram, I have also started to dabble on TikTok. It's pretty heavy on the maternity leave content over there. Please, no judgment. I am a millennial and I have no idea what I'm doing. And in case someone has told you today, you are amazing, you are loved, and I am so proud of the badass human you are. Keep it up, mama.